This is our day number 16, and while learning Selenium, Java, Cucumber, and CI technique, now we are at a point when we are discussing about getting the test data from Excel sheet, and sometimes it is required to update the Excel sheet also. So we'll see both the parts. So when we say getting the data, it is a reading file, right? And when we say writing, it's like you're writing the file. You're writing into the file. So read, write, both kind of function we will see. Okay. So let's understand what is Excel sheet first of all. Everyone knows it, but we have to look it into in a technical way. So let's say this is Excel sheet. Okay, Excel sheet, which is so if you see here, if I save it, right, it asks me on what format you want to save, right? So somewhere it asks whether you want to save it as a 97 2003 format, 97 to 2003 format, that is .xls. Okay, and by default it is showing me .xlsx. Okay, by default it shows me .xlsx. That's the latest format for this. Okay, so you can read and write both kind of file. Okay. Let's understand about the Excel sheet. So technically, when you are using any third-party jar to read or write a file, right, this will be called workbook, right? So in general language we say it is a spreadsheet, right? Spreadsheet is another name, but we will use the word workbook. Okay, and what is this? This is sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. I have created sheet, so that is called sheet. That's fine. And what is this? These are rows. Okay, and what is this? Let's say where I'm writing something. So I have written something on the first row and first column. First row and first column, I have written something. So that is called cell. That is called cell, CELL. So this thing is a complete row. If I highlight it, this is the second row, and this particular thing is a cell. So every row have multiple cells. So let's understand it. There is a hierarchy. One workbook can have multiple sheets, right? Sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. One sheet will have multiple rows, and row will have multiple columns or cells. So if you write it properly, it will be, let's say, workbook. Workbook will have many, sheets, and then once you select a sheet, there will be many rows, right? So I'm not writing many word. Workbook will have sheets, sheets will have rows, and rows will have cells. It's very simple. One workbook will have multiple sheets. You have to select the sheet. Once you select the sheet, then there will be multiple rows. You have to find out on what row what you want to do. And then on the row, you have to find out on which cell you want to work. Okay. Now let's understand one more thing. What is here rows and columns? Every sheet is a kind of two-dimensional array. Every sheet represents a kind of two-dimensional array, 2D array, where there are number of rows and number of columns, right? So let's understand first the read part. So we are going to see how we should read one Excel sheet, how we can read it. Okay. So for that, you should open. There is a so by default Java do not have um, APIs to or jars to read. There is no default jar to read Excel sheet. Okay, so we have to use some third-party jar to read it. We have to use third-party functions to read Excel sheet or write Excel sheet. So there are multiple, there are a lot of, because it's an open source world. So people have made their own functions to and jars, APIs to read write Excel sheet. But the most famous one is Apache POI and JXL, right? So you should read about both the things. We are doing it through Apache POI. Okay. So Apache POI is the Java APIs for Microsoft Documents. So this is not just for the Excel sheet, right? For other kind of document also you can use it. Okay. We are using it for um, Excel. You can do it for XML thing also, right? We are using it for Excel file. So here we have see the downloads. So this is poi.apache.org, and inside that we have downloads here that will navigate you to this URL where the latest release is 17 February 2020, POI 4.1.2. And here you should just download this POI bin 4.1.2 zip file, this one. Once you will download it and you have to extract it, you will get it something like this. Let's say this folder I have in my system, and this will look like this, where there are multiple jars, and then in the lib also there are jars, and in OOXML library also there are jars. But maybe you don't need all the jars as of now. Just to read Excel file, you don't need to add all the jars. I'll show you what are the jars we have to add. So I'll show you and note down how many jars we need. So if you do add external jar, you have to select some jars. What I have added. So XML, so I'll go from here. Common collection, this jar, common compress, we need this also. Common logging, this also we need. What else? POI 4.1.2 jar, everything is there in that package. Don't worry. Once you will get this particular folder, POI 4.1.2, all the jars are here only. You have to select 5 to 6 jars to be added. And POI OOXML 4.1, this jar, and schemas jar, and XML beans jar. That's it. Okay. So those jars, once you will add, then you can start reading it. And the code is very simple. It's not too much complicated. It's not a complicated code. You just have to understand it logically what we are doing here. Okay. So if you remember that whenever you want to read a file, whenever you want to read a file, you have to declare the input stream. Okay. Because you want to take input from a particular file, so you will be creating and a reference for that. So here, if you see, this through this code, you are getting it logically into this instance. So when you say new file stream, new file, I have written in the single line. Actually, it can be a 2-line code where you will say file is equals to new file and this. So file F is equals to new file and this code, and then you will say file input stream, whatever name you want to give here, is equals to new file input stream, and then F will come here. So I'm not writing in the 2-line. Let me show you that what we have done. Okay, so the path is required. It won't create a new Excel file. Your Excel sheet should be there. So let's understand what we are going to do from this code. We will read the Excel S6 file. Okay. We are reading as of now. So I have already made that file. Let's say somewhere. Where is that? There's one test data. I made one Excel sheet. If you see here, there are columns I have added: name, email, date of birth, salary, department. Let's say, just for an example, I have put all these things. So these are my column names. Let's say the first row one, and from the second row, I have a proper data. So our task today is to just read it, just to read this Excel sheet. So you have to create it first. Okay. Going back to this. So this code will just give you a file input stream, which you will be using to create your workbook. So the real code from the Apache, this is the Java code actually. From here, you are converting it or taking it as a workbook. So here you are saying XSF workbook is equals to, you can give any name, right? I have given the workbook name. You can give WB or anything. Then you are saying, okay, through this input stream, we want to take it as a workbook. And then you have to say, okay, from the workbook, which sheet you want to take. So there is a function called get sheet add. So get sheet add 0 means the first sheet. Get sheet add 0 means the first sheet. Okay, so name is sheet 1. This name can be anything. Let me put it. Test date, or you can say any name even. I'm giving regression, something like this. And sheet 2 name, I'm giving, let's say, smoke. Right, I can give any name. So this is sheet 0 actually. Okay, so because whenever there is a function, let's say whenever you say see get kind of function, it actually works based on the index. So get sheet at 0 will give you the control of this particular sheet. Okay, let me close this one. We don't want it. This one. So this is my sheet 0. So control will be here now, but then we want to read the rows. So you have to catch the rows. Now the problem with rows is there are multiple rows. So what we are doing here is that we will create iterators. So sheet.iterators will provide me the pointer to the first row. Okay, and now you have your iterator object here, and then there is a proper way to read it, right? So what we are doing here is, once you have the row iterator, Then you will say, okay, next. So that will give me the next row. So then there is a row class. Okay. So we are using a row class here to get that row object. But that will, if you want to print the row, right, it will not make any sense, right? You have to then put cell iterator. So it's like on row, you will be putting the cell iterator function. Once you have the cell iterator, then you will iterate cell by cell. Then the same thing, you did it for each row you are reading, and then inside that you want to read it cell by cell. Okay, this is same as two-dimensional array. It's nothing but, I'll compare this code to something like reading a two-dimensional array. How we read the two-dimensional array? So for example, here let me write, if you have a two-dimensional array, what you do. So let's say you write integer data, let's say, is equals to new int, and you have a size, let's say 3 and 4, 3 by 4, 3 rows, 4 columns, something like this. So what you do actually, you write a for loop. So the external for loop is generally to parse from row by row. So you start from 0 and x is less than 3, you put x plus plus, and then you do again a for loop to read in a column. So for integer y is 0 and y is less than 4, y plus plus you do, and then once you have y, you will print it like data x y. Correct. So this is the way, right? You can get it. Let's say this is integer. So integer p is equals to data of xy, and then you print it system.out.println p. So this is like, if you have 3 rows and 4 columns, what we do, the outer for loop is actually to change the rows, right? And the internal for loop is like changing the columns. So when you reach to the internal for loop, x is constant for this whole for loop, right? So x is 0. So first will be like data of 0, 0, then data of 0, 1, data of 0, 2, data of 0, 3. Once it will become 0, 4, it's not possible because 4 is not equal to less than 4. So it will come out of this internal for loop. It will go back here and x will become 1. And then again, it will start getting data of 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3. Correct. In the same way, your Excel sheet is a two-dimensional array, but you have to use the iterators. So what is iterator? So all the data structures. Here sheet is a kind of data structure. Row is also one data structure. Column is also a data structure. Okay. So generally, I'm talking in a very simple language, not going into the technical depth of it. But you can have iterator to any kind of collection or any kind of data structure in general. So when we say that you are putting the so iterator is common across everything. If you have used it, I have explained it. There was list iterator, There was set iterator, I guess you can set. So one of the doubt clarification session had this iterator part also, I believe, right, which Nikhil has taken already. Please go through it to understand about the iterator part. But here, in simple language, once we have, your control on sheet, then you are creating a row iterator. Okay, name can be anything here. We have given the meaningful name, right? You can give any name, but this iterator will be a row kind of generic data type. So let me clarify again here. If I will write it like this, list of, so that you will understand what I'm saying. So let's say this is list string, and we'll give the name of this list. Let's say um, shopping is equals to new array list. There may be a spelling mistake, don't worry about it. Syntax, but more or less syntax is correct here. So once you have added all the shopping, so how to add it? So this will be shopping dot add, and then you will put it all the values. So here, if I write shoes or anything, let's say shirt or whatever, you can add multiple values here. Shopping dot add. How to iterate this? How to iterate this? You can say iterator itr is equals to shopping dot iterator. So all the collections, generally all the data structure will have iterator function. Okay, and it returns an iterator pointer. So once you have your iterator pointer, then you can use probably like for while loop, or for like this, while this has some next value, while this has some kind of next value, then you can just print, you want to print itr.next. Okay. It's a basic syntax of getting value through iterator. It's common across all collection, more or less same syntax. Okay, this is one way. So either it is a list or set, you can use it. Okay. So in the same way, we are iterating the things row by row. So once you have, and here you have to mention, okay, it's iterator, but it's a row kind of data type. We want to iterate a row kind of object. So here, when you have row iterator dot till, there is a till it will reach to the last row, right? It's like this, till it will reach to the last row. It's like this. And row iterator to next, what it will give you? It will give you a row, right? It will give you a complete row. So you have to catch it into the row data type only, and then inside the row you can put a function. There is a function, so this is like a standard function that you can put cell iterator into that, and then you again iterate it through cell, then again the same function to go it by cell by cell. So in this way, then what the cell iterator dot next will give you, it will give you a cell, then you are printing it. So if you compare with this, I have written in a short, actually I should write it like this: string temp is equals to itr dot next, and once you will get it, you will print temp, right? So this is a basic thing like about iterator. The same thing we are using here. Okay. So this will give you all the details cell by cell, and you are iterating row and then going to the cell. And once you have the cell, you are converting it to string and you want to print it. Okay, so this particular code will print the data. So let's run this. I'm running it. So let's observe the output part now. So it is printing me whatever I have in my Excel sheet. It is printing name, email, date of birth, salary, department, and then this one. Okay. So it is reading wherever your data is end. It is not reading this blank cell. It is not reading this blank cell. So always keep a practice that from wherever, like till the row you have the data, put it into the border. You can make any kind of border, like full border, or just, you know, at the edge. If you want to put the border, you can do it. Okay, fine. So this is about reading it. So let's use this quickly. Let's use this quickly for our login code. Let's use it quickly for the login code. So we have our test.techlift.in, and we want to click on the login and we want to fill it. Do we have a code already created for this? I forgot. We have, but I forgot that. Yes, we have that code. So instead of hard coding with this user ID and password, we will take it from the Excel sheet. That code uh, I want to write. So let's write that code. Okay. Yes, so we are able to open. We have to go to the login button. Okay, let's make a login. So I am copying this, paste, and we'll say it data from XLS demo. Fine. Data from XLS demo, and what we want to achieve. Let me delete all these things. So the objective of this function, this test case will be login check. But here actually taking data from Excel sheet. Fine. So, okay, we want to read the data from Excel sheet. That's perfectly fine. And what is the login code? Let me copy that login part. So we are on testology already. Okay, this line is also not required. And after that, let me copy this. Okay, this is the whole thing that we are opening testology.in, and then we want to click on the login. Once the login page will be there, we want to put this data. Okay, let's use this also. So I'm creating a third sheet, and I'll give a name as login test. You can give any name, and here we will put the user ID and password. So this one, let's say the user ID at the first column and password, this one at the second column, and we will read it. Okay, Let me put it in the border, all border, done. So we will be reading the third sheet and from the first row, something like that. So how to do that? This is hard coded one. Now what we can do is, mm, whenever you have started your test case, you can read the sheet also. So for that, we can call a function which we have already created. So for example, this particular thing, you can put it in a function. So let me copy the whole thing. Let's say I'm copying this part, and or you can have this created in one utility class and call those function. As of now, I am putting it here, public void read data, something like that. And here we are putting the whole code, perfectly fine. But what you want to achieve with this code, we want to read. So this is the standard code. Don't worry about it. This is a standard code that you have to understand. And sometimes you have to change a little bit as per your requirement. As of now, we want to read the data from second sheet. And once the first value is actually our um, username and the second value is the password. So when you are printing it, instead of printing it, uh, why not store it? Why not store it? So I can write in a simple way like declaring here string username is equals to null and string password is equals to also null, but we have to use it somewhere. So here, once you are reading the cell, and you have a value here, you should check that which value you are reading. So here you can put that which column you're reading. So I can say integer x is equals to 0, and the first value is at 0 only, right? So, and I'll increase x plus plus here. And here we can put your if else part where you will say if x is equals to 0, that means it's the first value, correct? So if x is equals to 0, then it's a username. Okay, I'm deleting this part. And you can write it like this, that if x is equals to 1, then it is password. So you are storing it based on where you are right now. The username and password will come to us, and we will use this username and password instead of hard coding here. We'll put username and where is that password? But the question is, we have to call this function. So we'll call read data before starting our test case. We'll say read data. Good. Done. So see here, now user ID and password nowhere is hard coded and nobody can say, okay, where is the user ID and password, right? Everything you are reading it from the Excel sheet. Okay, it's like this. Let me debug this program so that you will understand that username and password is coming from the Excel sheet. So I am debugging this program. My mistake, my mistake. I have opened testology.in. Actually, it's not testology.in. That is techlift.in. Let me put it properly. Let's debug it again. Perfect. So we are at line number 45. And what is the value of username? I am see here, I'm doing a mouse over here. Yes, we got the username and password. What is password? Password testology 123. Why it is showing me? Because this read function is already done. And what the read function did, smartly what we did is when it's a first cell, it's a username, then it's a second cell, then it's a password, something like that we have written. Though this function can be written in some other ways also, but we are understanding in a very basic level as of now. So yes, we have, so all these things is here, user ID and password in the background will be put through the Excel sheet. Okay, so this is running fine, and you can have your assertion also. So here, once you are logged in, you want to print the title. So you can then check whether the title you were expecting that it should show home, right? It's matching or not, something like that. That's not the purpose of today's session. You can put your own assertion. So this is how it is reading. Now the next part is writing in the Excel sheet. Sometimes we need it that, let's say this is your test data, and at the last column you want to print test cases passed or not. Based on the assertion, you want to write some kind of code to make it pass or fail. And just not about the pass or fail, probably for some other reason you want to um, put something on the Excel sheet. It's possible that you want to put some values to Excel sheet. Fine. So let's see now the write code. So the write code is very simple one. I'll give you this function. What needs to be done when you want to write it? Let's understand this. Okay. So you have to create the input stream, and same thing, you have created new file input stream. Why we need it again? Because let's understand, writing is not how you can write until you open it, right? And you want to reach to a particular cell, right? You cannot write it, right? So that's why we have to open the file input stream, and this will open this function when you say workbook. So workbook is Apache POI SS user model. In the user model package, we have a workbook class, and workbook factory will actually get control of the workbook through create function. Okay, so the create function will convert your file into a workbook. It's like, or it will take it as a workbook, we can say. Okay. So here, once you have your workbook, you want to go to a particular sheet number. So WB once, so these two lines while writing is important, and this two line while reading from the Excel sheet is important. That's it. After that, it's very easy. After that, you just have to understand that WB, this workbook instance, will have functions like get sheet add. So this will give you the sheet. Okay, once you have the sheet, you want to go to some row, you want to go to a particular row. So what other functions we have? Let's see. Once you have sheet, what are the functions we have? Dot. Okay, so is there what, because create row will create a new row. Fine. And get cell comments. So there are a lot of functions. You can get the comment written on a particular cell. In Excel sheet, we can put the comment also, correct? But I'm interested in knowing related to rows part only. Okay. So here you have get row. So get row, if you put, I want to get the fourth row, fifth row, sixth row, you can get it through the index. Okay, you can get it through index. So here what we are doing is get last row number will give you a number here, so that you want to write something on the last row. So here, let's say I want to write something here. I want to write something here, right? So what I will do is, it will give me what is your last row number, and then from that next row it will print. It's like this. So let me put it here. Let's say testology. Okay, we will again debug this to understand. Okay, so what is the objective of our program here? Let's say that go to sheet 2, index wise it's 1, index is equals to 1, and write something on first cell. Okay, something on next row first cell. It's like this. So let's understand it, that how it will do. And let me put one debug point here so that things will be clear. And when you are writing it, your Excel sheet should not be open. You have to close it. Okay, otherwise it will throw an error uh, that the file is being used by some other program. Something like that will come. Let's do this. So this is a just simple write function. Okay, and let me put a debug point. Fine. So let's see this. Debug as Java application. Okay, we are here. So we got the sheet. Fine. And this will give me what is my last row number. This function will give me what is my last row number. So it is giving me my last row number is 0. My last row number is 0. Okay. And this will create a new row. Okay. I'm going here. So this will create a new row, and it will give it back to the, so the your control will be on the next row. Now there is a function called create cell, and then you can put on that cell, you can put set cell value. Okay, so we are setting a value on a particular index. We can change it. We'll try this thing also. And then what we are doing, once you do that, so nothing is written till this point. All the things are happening at instance logical level until you will do it like this. Like you have to use this particular part where you will say that, okay, I want to write it actually, right? So So for that, you have to create output stream object, and then you will be saying this whatever you have in the workbook, right? So this particular workbook has at the second sheet some value created. Logically, everything is done in the background only until you will say that workbook, this workbook, I want to write on this file. It's like this, right? And then you will close it. So this is the whole thing about writing it. Let me run this and let's check what it has done. So see here on the next line, we have testology printed here. Okay, let's change something. Let's save it. Let's change something in the code. So if I say, go to a particular row also we can say, right? So let me, so this is fine. Let's do this thing also. And apart from that, what we will do, we don't want get row number. We can simply say, no, this number is not required. We'll say that create row. So here any number you can put. So I can say fifth row, and you can give any names. So row 5 I can give, and on row 5 at fourth cell I want to put the value something, right? So some test data, something like this. I'm writing, the same thing will happen. So let's run this. This time, if I'll open this and let's check. So here, if you see on the sixth row at the fourth column, it has written this some test data. Why? Sixth row because index is 5, and fourth column because it is index 3. So this is how you can write the data also into any Excel sheet. Okay, let me put the whole thing into a separate program so that you will remember that we are doing a right thing, writing into Excel sheet. So this will be write into XLS demo. And something like this. And you can call write. That's also fine. If I say right. So that particular function will just uh, write into a particular. Now you can customize this, right? I'll say write. I'll pass some value. Write 2 comma 7 comma and the value. So here I'll say 2 comma 7 comma learning selenium testology, something like this. So I can make customized function also. So okay, so and catch it. So integer x comma integer y comma string data, something like this. And then instead of writing here this, where were we? And let me delete this. Okay, let's have this also so that you will get to know. But real, what I'm saying is here I can say row number X, cell number Y, sorry, Y, and put data, right? See, it's the power of programming. Once you are able to know how to write it, now you do it on your own ways. So I'm saying that 2, 7. 2 is my row, 7 is my column, and there you put this data. So we have written this code here that go to the X, go to the Y cell and Y number cell and put this data. So this will also work. Let's run this. Run application. It will throw an error, I was saying, because file not found exception. Great. The process cannot be accessed the file because it is being used by another process, because this Excel sheet is still open. Let me close this. Save it. And let's run this again. Run Java application. So this is nothing to do with Selenium. You have to use it properly in Selenium code to get the data. It's like that. Okay, this part is done. We are not printing anything. So that's why this program is already completed. Let's see whether it has done something or not. So if you see here it is printed. So it's like, because we have 0, 1, 2 is the third column, third row, and 7, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you start from the 0, okay, what we have done, let me check it again. We pass 2 comma 7. So 7 will be the 8th column. 7 will be the 8th column. Yes, we are on the 8th column. It has put this data. So this is about writing. Generally, it's not required, but it's good to know how we write it. The read is more important. So coming back to our agenda, let's understand that once you know how to read and write, you should create your own function. What sheet you want to read, what row you want to read, based on what you want to read. So here is our homework. So the homework is make your own data provider and use it. Data provider means, if I'm not talking about the data provider function. So let me not use the data provider. Make your own test data sheet and use it to create customer test automation script based on the test case number. So this homework is actually that once you log in and once you logged in, then in the ceiling we have customer. So whatever data is required to create a new customer, this all detail, whatever the mandatory detail you want to put should be there in the Excel sheet. So I'm giving you the full hint. Actually, there should be a sheet which is related to the test cases. And here we have somewhere, let's say test case 19. And in the test case 19, all the detail will be there, whatever we need for this. So for example, full name, type. So here will be full name and then type and so on. So here will be the detail. So you have to read a particular test case number to read the full name and type and use it in your test case. It should not be the first row. It should be like any test case number. So while reading, so I'm giving a hint. You should write a function. Let's say read data, and you should pass the test case name. So here you will pass, let's say test case 19. So once you will pass it test case 19, this read data should open that Excel sheet, find out where is test case 19. Probably you can pass the sheet number also. So you'll pass, let's say sheet number 0. So you're passing, and this is sheet number. write it number. So you're passing, okay, from the sheet 0, go where is test case 19 is written, read the data, and it will return the whole data. Right? So your code should be like returning a list, a string list properly to get all the test data. It's like this. Or you can think of your own way of doing it. I'm just giving a hint that you should make your own test. So this is your homework. Make your own test data sheet and use it to create customer test automation, customer creation. Customer creation test automation script based on the test case number. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to share the whole thing like code and this Excel sheet so that you can practice and understand. Let me take some of the questions now. Just a minute. Okay. Iterator, read about it. I'm going to share some of the document to you guys and you can read about iterator part. And check it in Google. Is it possible to read the rows and cell without iterator? I guess it is possible. There may be a simplified code to do this thing. But what we are using in a standard way, that's why we have used row iterator or the cell iterator. Can we read the data from notepads? Yes. So notepad is already done. So .txt, reading it from the .txt file. We did it when we were doing Java code. So somewhere we have done. CSV we can do. So to read CSV file, it's same as reading .txt file. You can use the same code to read the CSV file also. Only thing is you have to use a delimiter pattern that whenever there is a comma, there is a next value, something like that. But this Apache POI, we are using it for reading Excel sheet only. To read from the text file, it's simple file handling in Java. You don't need Apache POI for that. If you want to read the output in multiple sheets, do we need to write different functions for each sheet? So I have shown you, you can create your own custom code where you will pass where you want to read, write, what you want to write. In fact, in here you can pass your sheet name also, right? Sheet name. And this sheet name will be here, right? You have to catch it, and instead of hard coding here, your sheet name will be passed from the function itself, right? Just a hint, I'm deleting it. It's just programming how you want to manage. Once you know how to do that, then you can customize based on your need. Okay, next question is, um, will, so, okay, let me complete. So do you have to write another function to write in different sheet? It depends on, maybe you need another function also. Can you write similar function to do different kind of thing? It all depends on how we write the code. Right? Will data can be feed from cell number as A1, B2 in Excel sheet? It's a good question. So can data we can catch based on the index? So probably what you're asking is, when you have an Excel sheet, there should be a mechanism that why not get the data based on the index? Why not there should be a function which will say, get me the data from third row and fifth column. Yes, there is a way. There is a way to get it. You have to try on your own based on, because I said that sheet is nothing but a two-dimensional array. So there should be a way to do that. But we are iterating row by row and cell by cell, not directly like a row number or column number. I have a question related to weight. If one set
one test typing an implicit wait command and the browser will wait for the same time frame before loading every web element. This causes an unnecessary delay in executing the test script. What is meaning of same time frame before loading every web element? So somewhere you have read it, maybe it's correct or wrong. But the thing is, when we say implicit wait, so implicit wait, you're setting it for the entire session. So you can change in between, but the general practice is will not change it. Once you set the implicit wait, the same wait is applicable for all your find element actions. It's like this. So if an element is not available at the 0th second, right, it will do the same kind of wait for all the elements one by one, right? Wherever you are doing driver or find element, right? So it's not a bad thing, but in a way, it may slow down your process. So it's better to use explicit wait for a particular condition. It's like this.